get today's show started. Frontier opening bell today, Thursday, the 8th of October. And I welcome my panelists today to the program. Chima Okadike, who is in charge of consumer goods analysis at Vertiva Capital. Good morning, Chima.
Good morning, Basin. Good morning, everyone.
Great to see you, and congratulations on the market moving up in the Nigerian space. Ayodeji Ebo from Greenwich Merchant Bank. Good morning, Ayodeji.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate having you as well. And Agnes from GBS Africa, partner there. Thank you so much, Agnes. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I'll just give everyone a very quick snapshot of the latest World Bank Sub-Saharan Africa report. It's called Africa Plus, released today. The report says GDP within the continent will be a negative 3.3% for this year, but we're likely going to see a positive reading growth 2.1% for 2021 and a likely 3.2% growth for the year 2022. That's the latest from the World Bank today. So we just want everyone to keep that in mind. So let's talk about the African markets. Nigerian market was bucked 0.9% on Wednesday, bucking a 12-day trend that we saw in the positive territory. Look at your screen and you see the Ivorian market, the Egyptian market, the Kenyan stock market, and the South African GSC in the green. A very pretty sweet day for a number of Pan-African exchanges, even beyond this big five that we highlight on a daily basis. In East Africa, the UNCTAD's latest report, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, talking about Kenya being the hub for illicit financial flow in Africa. Agnes will speak to us briefly on that. In the meantime, MTN, Airtel, and Stanbic IBTC, or Stanbic Bank in Uganda, has admitted the hackers broke into the system because of the mobile money payments and they stole north of $1 million US. The authorities are still looking for that. Ethiopia is looking to open up for tourism. Yes, as they see the impact of the virus. And Rwanda is not giving up on plans to build Kigali International Financial Center. Yesterday, they unveiled this plan to members of the European Union Business Chamber. Nigeria had a similar plan in 2004 to build a Lekki Financial Corridor, but that plan had since been abandoned. Let's start with you, Agnes, with this illicit financial flow from UNCTAD. That's a very big report.
Thank you very much, Boston. Interesting to see that Kenya is a top destination, not only for tourists, but also for illicit financial flows. But it's a pity. It is a pity. We spoke earlier. Kenya is a transit. We are surrounded by countries that are politically unstable, so thereby politicians or rogue businessmen use Kenya, and because of lack of governance or effective governance and regulation, so Kenya is seen as a transit for their money, which is absolutely taking away resources from these countries that really need it, taking away resources from sectors like healthcare, education. And this story was in the headlines last week when UNCTAD released a report saying about $89 billion leave the continent every year. And this is not just through corruption, through misinvoicing, transfer pricing, and this money could be used. We talk about the lack of financing for Africa projects. Can you imagine what these funds would do in our market, building infrastructure, building, investing in the healthcare and education sector? So suddenly, spotlight on Kenya. I think it's important we work on governance, we work on political stability and regulatory framework to ensure that Kenya really should not be making headlines for such money leaving the continent, passing through Kenya, or being seen as Kenya as a top destination for this illicit financial flow. So it's not a good story, but certainly will make Kenyan heads rolling. But this is something we've talked over and over again. It has an impact on the Kenyan market too. Local Kenyans cannot afford to buy anything because obviously there's so much dirty money in the market. Another interesting story from East Africa is Ethiopia opening up its market for tourism. That I guess everyone is just gagging to open up. Uganda too has done the same. Remember, East Africa, Kenya included, is a top destination for tourism. So suddenly the sector has been greatly affected by COVID, and we are desperate to open up the market. Over 10 million employees in the sector have lost their job. It means revenue to the government is no longer available. So Ethiopia Airlines has been operating for a while now, but opening up the market for tourism will do a lot. Would be welcome in the country. Kigali, the story of Kigali and the financial center, competing with Nigeria and Kenya. Kenya had plans to become Africa's financial hub. That was a big vision by about 10 years ago. I hope the vision is still ongoing, but obviously it shows Kigali is not stopping. They've done some incredible moves. Apart from the unveiling it to the European business chambers, they've also attracted companies from Mauritius, from France. So they're absolutely out there to compete with anybody else who is thinking on the same line. But well done for Kigali, certainly.
Yes, congratulations. So Kigali, we can use as many international financial hubs in Africa as we can. We don't have enough yet. If you have Egypt north of the continent, you have Rwanda, you have South Africa. If Nigeria or Cote d'Ivoire can do the same in West Africa or Ghana, that will be really, really great. It all improve and increase the flow of investments into the African continent, and it improve the market across down to our currencies and our showing globally speaking. So it's a good news for not just for Rwanda, but the entire African space. When we're talking about fintech, Ayodeji, let me ask you very quickly. When you see, it looks like financial crimes is increasing with fintech. So when we saw the story in Uganda about these hackers going into a telco's accounts or systems like MTN or Airtel and hacking their accounts and stealing money running into $1 million and above, the authorities are still investigating and looking for them. Don't you see that there's an issue here where we continue to expand financial inclusion and fintech? I guess we lost him there briefly. Chima, thank you. So that question I was asking Ayodeji, would you look at it? Would the fintech, we're increasing the space, we want electronic POS, we want ease of transactions and all of that, but here are hackers as well.
Okay, I think that as we widen the financial inclusion net, as more people come on board, and these fintech companies try to make it easier for people to be included in the financial system, it then also becomes easier for hackers to try to take advantage of the system as well, because these people are working just as much as the fintech legit guys are working. We also have the other guys trying to take advantage of the system. So I think it is something that these fintech companies will need to look more into, because one way to discourage people from being included or from being interested in being included is the threat of losing their money. If it is possible for me to join, to use your services, and then it's possible for my money to get stolen or for me to be hacked because you're not properly secure, then the aim is defeated. So I think it's something that these companies will need to look more into.
Yes, securing the financial system, trading platforms, exchange, payment, settlement, clearing, I'm sure is one thing that the financial market takes very seriously, isn't it, Ayodeji? Whether you're trading stocks or you're trading FX or you're doing payment or transfer.
Yes, it's really very important. And I believe that now that we all know, even with the COVID-19 pandemic, we've all realized that everything has to go online for you to be able to achieve significant mileage regarding whether your product or your services. So we know that this is going to be a major area where the IT developers would also take very seriously. Just like for the trading platform, for the exchanges, what we call penetration test, that they try to, you have to test that your platform on an annual basis and submit a report just to be sure that it's your platform is secured. And As we progress, we believe that for a lot of other platforms that are also trying to set up, taking advantage of globalization, the online, then would also be mindful of securing their platform, because part of what the risk that this also pretends is that we all use our cards, Naira card, credit card, debit card on this platform, and if they are not actually secured, and you see what a lot of potential customers or customers, they check to see whether your website or your platform is secure before they input details of their card, so that it's not compromised. So we know this is the way to go, and yes, would experience it's not going to be perfect from day one, and we believe that once this with cybercrime increasing, hackers getting access into systems, we believe that there will be more control. Some people will build specialization rather on or within that space, and as we progress, we'll all get it right.
Okay, I got the last point you make. The need to build specialization. I'm sure some firms will start building that right now. As you said, COVID-19 has opened up everyone's eyes to the need that we are all online now, day and night around the globe. So the need for cybersecurity will become seriously, will be something to take on board more seriously than before. But let's talk about the Nigerian West African space. I'm sure we're all angling to talk about the Nigeria's candidacy of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, one of the two candidates. The challenger in the race for the WTO is the South Korean. Both of them are women. I'm sure Agnes and Chima are all angling to see at least one of these two women today become the head of the WTO. The announcement is expected later today. The Nigerian authority is still spending, wants to spend so much more in billions of dollars. The latest is about $3.3 billion for road, rail, seaport infrastructure across the country. Angola is likely heading for a 6th year of recession, according to Standard Bank report. And Societe Generale in Ivory Coast is paying reports 11% increase in its operations for the first half of the year. Is listed on the BRVM. Chima, let's talk about the markets. The equity markets on Wednesday. Where did that negative 0.9% come from?
Well, before now, the market had been on a 12-day gaining streak and had gained about 7.7% year to date, like we saw on Tuesday. And I think that just posed opportunities for several investors to take profit on stocks that they had been holding at lower prices. So we saw that most of the banking names, the big banks like Zenith and Guarantee, lost a bit. We saw MTN as well lose significantly, or not significantly, but because of its market cap size, we saw that it had a lot of weight. Also saw a loss in Unilever and some other smaller stocks. So I think it is to be expected, given that we've been seeing a lot of bargain hunting and the market has really rallied and gone to a very significant high. Going forward, we may expect to see today will continue in that same manner. We should expect to see some investors try to still take profit. While there are still some stocks that are at some lows that may be attractive for investors to bargain hunt, we still see that the opportunity for profit taking will be stronger in today's market. However, going forward even more, we still think that with the inflows coming to the system from the fixed income maturities, we should still see, I don't think this is the end of the road for the equity market. I don't think this is where we'll start to see all losses. We may still see some inflows from the fixed income market as maturities continue to unfold.
Okay. Ayodeji, we're looking at about 567 billion Naira or more maturities today. What's your take on the fixed income side for the Nigerian market?
Yeah, thanks. I think this is going to is adding to the pressure from on the fund managers angle, because a major chunk of that funds belongs to the domestic investors. You know, from next month, most maturities that we would have from HOMO would basically just be the banks, from the banks and the foreign portfolio investors, because it was towards the end of last quarter that last year that the segmentation of the market to have the Nigerian Treasury bills market and the HOMO market. So for this week, the fund managers are really under pressure looking for investment opportunities, and that's I align with what Chima said regarding the equities market. So for the PFAs, for the fund managers, with little or no available security for them to invest these monies, and banks are not also taking deposit because of the frequent the debits of CRR that they get if you have excess liquidity in your books. They are really in a very fixed position, and we believe that there will be continued pressure in the fixed income market. Rates will remain really very low, and some of those funds from the PFA angle and the fund managers will find its way into the equities market, given the higher yield relative to the fixed income market.
Great, thank you. Ayodeji, we'll talk a little bit more about the Nigerian space, but let me ask Agnes whom she's rooting for between the two final candidates for the WTO. I don't want to put you on the spot, but today is the decision day, by the way. It all goes to women, by the way, either ways.
You know what? My money on Okonjo-Iweala. She's an African. She's Pan-African, and I think isn't it obvious? I'm an African, so of course I would have loved to see the East African Ambassador Amina Mohammed, who was also on the race. But great candidate for WTO. The organization needs somebody who can unite. I'm not. There's narrative that we need an African for the first time. No, it's not about an African. It's about a person who is capable to bring this multinational together, bring nations together. Remember, we still have ongoing war with the Brexit. We have the China-US trade wars, and we need somebody who can try and bring some normality in, within the WTO, and of course try and push trade development and trade relations going forward. So I think Okonjo-Iweala has my prayers and my vote, and I guess I join every African in saying she is the woman for the job. She's the right woman for the job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's talk about Southern African markets, shall we? Very quickly. When we look at the global banking recovery, the latest report yesterday from S&P Global Ratings says recovery in the global banking industry was stretched to 2023 and even beyond. And recovery by the banking industry around the world to pre-COVID-19 level will be slow, uncertain, and will be highly variable across the various jurisdictions. The banking system in South Africa is expected to recover slowly to 2019 levels beyond 2023, according to the report. Meanwhile, the South African Reserve Bank Deputy Governor spoke about the low lending rate that could stay for the next 2 years within the country. Mauritius inflation went up 2.6% in September from 1.5% in August. But again, that came on the back of the news on Tuesday that Mauritius' GDP for the second quarter went down a massive 32.5%. ArcelorMittal is asking the South African authorities to look at regulations once again around base metals or scrap metals, as the case may be. Ayodeji, let me quickly ask you, you're in the banking sector. This report, as far as the global banking is concerned, I'm sure you're not surprised.
So for the rating, so for most of the banks, and you look at it even from the IMF perspective, looking at the economy, they already see for most of the developed economy, this COVID-19 crisis is getting prolonged, and the recovery process may be slower than anticipated. And for most of the global banks, before we'll see a major recovery, it's going to also be premised by some of the interventions or quantitative easings that we see from some of these states. So some of these countries rather. So with the rating, the S&P's rating on emphasizing that the recovery may stretch to 2023, I quite agree with them. Africa, within the Africa continent, who have been able to weather that storm, and I know there's ongoing research as to why COVID is really not very prevalent in Africa. But we can see even what is also going on in the UK. The rate has not subsided, also even in the US. So this is not a surprise. There will be a lot of the business activities would stay as slowed down, and as a result, there will be accumulation of non-performing loans. So for most of those banks, I know there will be very consistent stress tests that will be carried out to ensure that they are in a good state, so that we don't have any systemic challenge or any failed banks like we had in during the crisis in 2008.
Okay, let's thank you, Ayodeji, speaking to the S&P Global Banking report. If we check in with the North African markets, as we always do towards the end of the show, the International Finance Corporation is putting about 393 million Egyptian pounds into the Laurus Capital Fund. That's part of the Pan-African support that this private sector lending arm of the World Bank gives to the continent. In Libya, the central bank governor says he wants the country's oil production to ramp up quickly to about 1.7 million barrels per day. Says the country needs the money. Yes, of course, the country had been nearly destroyed by the different warring factions since the ouster of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi a couple of years ago. And the annual meetings of the European Bank for Construction and Development, EBRD, they started yesterday. They are approving the membership of Algeria from North Africa as a member of the EBRD. And Morocco, we're still talking about fintech. The CIH Bank is launching an eSert solution to ease a payment within the country. So let me take a final word from my panelists this morning. Let me start with Chima. What is your when you look at the Nigerian market space, in particular for consumer goods, this rally that seems to be going on, we see Nigerian breweries, Guinness, despite its poor numbers the last time. Then we saw HCP companies such as Unilever also being part of the rally. Do you think anything significant? Do you think their third quarter numbers would justify some of these earnings or some of this price appreciation?
Yes, definitely. I think that we'll see better numbers in Q3, especially for the brewery guys, most especially Nigerian breweries, which has a very large market share compared to the other two significant players. We'll also see, I think we'll also see better numbers from Guinness as well, giving the opening of a major, giving increased social interaction and the opening of major sales points for these companies. Also for the HPCs, we had, especially for Unilever, we saw that their Q2 numbers were quite improved compared to the previous year. Even their Q1 numbers were good, and we attribute this to the increase in awareness for personal and home hygiene during the pandemic, during the peak of the pandemic, when people were very increasingly aware of social hygiene, physical hygiene. So we should still see that numbers will still come in favor of these consumer goods names. Even the food guys, we should still see positive performances for the food guys, given that many of them have gone through various strategies, including online e-commerce to push their sales volumes, and also going through the value space of the economy, of the consumer goods space. So I think that we'll see positive numbers for many of these consumer goods space, and maybe then we'll still continue to see positive reaction in the stock markets towards these stocks.
Thank you. Ayodeji.
Yes, so what would we expect that it's based on what's currently happening, that most of those results would also be positive, starting even from the banking space. We expect to see right back, so there should be some form of reduction on a quarter-on-quarter basis on their impairment charges, and that would be a major boost for their revenue. However, looking at still on the banking sector, you would also, for the yield environment as being a bit stable, a lot of them made money due to the major shift and downward trend in the yield environment, but that they may not be able to book significant gains from that. And for some of even their loans, the economy is still opening gradually, and we don't see any major increase in their loans and advances. For industrial goods, we expect that they should be able to sustain that momentum if they're able to surprise. There was a major surprise in their H1 results because despite the lockdown, they still recorded significant sales. So we believe that they should be able to also sustain that momentum in Q3. And looking at, we feel that the insurance space, there should also be some form of respite, especially for the top ones, because for most economies has reopened gradually, and renewal of most of the premiums, they should also be renewed. So by and large, it's still very interesting times for the equities market, with fixed income still really very low. We believe that there will be interest, but along the line would also, like what we saw yesterday, profit taking on some of those major stocks for some to just book their profit, but there's still a lot of buyers still waiting on the sideline, and that would still continue to push the market upward.
Okay, we appreciate it. Agnes, let me give you the final 30 seconds. What's going on in the diaspora?
We're still sending you money. I hope that money is not ending up in Kenya. But two stories that make sense is Okojo-Iweala's on top two. My money on her. So hoping that by the end of the day or by the end of the week, we'll have an African woman leading WTO. Again, on cybersecurity, I think the only country that has cyber laws is South Africa, and Kenya has a bill in parliament that has not been signed yet. I think African governments, as we open up, as Chima said, as we open up our market for financial inclusion, I think we need to tighten up our laws to ensure that there is no opportunity for this cyber attack. So two stories that are important: cybersecurity and the WTO story. But thank you.
Yeah, you don't want to send any money from diaspora and it gets stolen. I'm not sure. You work really hard. Those of you diaspora work hard for it, so it has to get to the right person and not diverted into money laundering and any other illegal activities within the continent. Thank you so much, three of you, for being on the panel today. Agnes, thank you so much. Ayodeji Jebo, we appreciate your time. And Chima Okadike, thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.